The bus rattled as it rolled down Martin Avenue, the windows fogged with breath and late autumn rain. Outside, Atlanta looked worn and gray, all cement and wet sidewalks. Inside, 25-year-old Nia Henderson sat hunched in her seat, one arm wrapped tightly around her 4-year-old daughter, Justice. Justice. The name had meant something once. "Are we going home now, Mama?" the little girl asked, her voice muffled in the thick pink hoodie she wore. In her lap, she clutched a stuffed elephant named Mr. Tumbles. One ear chewed, both eyes missing, fur matted with years of love. Nia pressed her lips to Justice's forehead. "Soon, baby. Real soon." But she didn't believe it. They weren't going home. Not really. They were going back to the shelter, where the air always smelled like mildew and anger, and people came and went in the night like ghosts. And soon, even that might not be theirs anymore. The social worker had said temporary housing too many times lately. And when they said temporary, it never meant safe. Nia had lost her job 3 months ago when she missed too many shifts at the diner. She was already on thin ice. Being a single mom with no backup meant every crisis, fever, cough, a missed bus, cost something. Eventually, it cost everything. Since then, it had been a cascade. Rent gone, food stamps delayed, electricity off, one visit to the ER for Justice's asthma, and suddenly a caseworker from Child Protective Services was just checking in. Then checking in again. Then scheduling family court. Nia had done everything they asked, parenting classes, job interviews, even group counseling, but it didn't seem to matter. The system had its own timeline, and now it was running out. Back at the shelter, Nia settled Justice into a bunk bed lined with extra blankets, tucking Mr. Tumbles beside her. Justice was asleep before Nia finished whispering the bedtime song she used to sing back when they had their own apartment, their own bathtub, their own key to a front door. Downstairs in the community room, Nia sat at a folding table under flickering fluorescent lights. A few other women were scattered across the room, keeping to themselves. Someone was crying behind the vending machine. Nia took out the court summons from her pocket and unfolded it slowly, her hands shaking. Custody review hearing, November 9th, 10 a.m. It was in 3 days. And she didn't have a lawyer. She tried legal aid. They were backed up. "You can represent yourself," the woman on the phone had said, almost kindly. "Just be honest. Show the judge you love your child." What else did she have but that? She was tired of pretending strength. Tired of talking like hope was a choice. Every day she held it together for Justice. But inside she was crumbling. And no one seemed to care. 3 days later, the courthouse smelled like bleach and fear. Nia wore the nicest thing she owned, a black dress that didn't fit quite right anymore, and borrowed shoes from a woman at the shelter. Justice wore a clean yellow dress and clung to Mr. Tumbles like he was the last safe thing in the world. In the waiting area outside courtroom 7B, Nia held her daughter tight on her lap. Her chest felt hollow. The CPS caseworker, a young white woman named Ms. Brannigan, walked up with a clipboard and an expression like someone waiting in line for coffee. "Are you ready, Miss Henderson?" No, Nia thought. But she nodded. Inside, the courtroom was cold, silent, and overwhelmingly white. The judge didn't look up when Nia entered. A woman from the state sat across the aisle with a man in a blazer. Nia had no one beside her. Justice sat on a bench behind her, legs swinging, too small for the seat. Mr. Tumbles lay face down beside her. They called it a review hearing, like it was just paperwork, like they weren't deciding whether Nia would get to kiss her daughter goodnight ever again. The words blurred: neglect, instability, at-risk home environment. Nia tried to speak, to say that she was trying, that Justice was her everything, that she'd sleep in the street if it meant keeping her daughter. But her voice cracked. The judge barely blinked. Then he said it. Temporary custody to remain with Child Protective Services. The sound left Nia's throat like something dying. She stood up without realizing, stumbled forward. "Wait. Please. No. She's all I got. Please, don't take her." Security moved toward her, but she reached the window first, the glass pane that looked out onto the hallway outside the courtroom. There, through the thick glass, she saw it, Justice, walking away, hand in hand with a different social worker. The little girl was crying, looking back, reaching. "Mama! Mama!" She screamed until her voice broke. She pounded the glass, clawed at it. The bailiffs grabbed her, but she twisted free for a second, just enough to scream. She needs me. She needs me. You can't. They wrestled her to the floor, cuffed her wrists behind her back. She was still screaming when they dragged her out of the courtroom, knees scraping the tile. Her face turned toward the window one last time. Justice was gone, and no one in that room said a word. The holding cell smelled like bleach and fear too, only stronger. Like the courthouse had bottled its cruelty and condensed it into 6 feet of gray concrete and metal. Nia sat on the bench, her wrists still red from the handcuffs. Her throat ached. Her legs trembled. A bailiff had muttered something about cooling off and slammed the door behind her 20 minutes ago. Or maybe longer. Time had dissolved into a fog of anger and panic. They took her baby. They took her baby. Justice was probably in the back seat of some government car right now, still holding Mr. Tumbles, still crying for the mother she thought would always be there. And Nia was in a cage. She had screamed too loud. She had fought too hard. She had looked desperate, and desperate women never win in court. Not when they're poor. Not when they're black. Not when they walk into courtrooms without lawyers and try to argue against a system that already made up its mind. And now, she was facing charges for disruption of proceedings and resisting court officers. They'd stacked that on top of everything else. The public defender finally came after what felt like an hour. He looked like he was still in law school. White, thin, anxious, with eyes that avoided hers like contact might transfer the weight of her life. "They'll probably release you later today," he said, flipping through a clipboard without sitting. "But CPS is going to use this outburst to strengthen their case. They'll call it erratic behavior, maybe even dangerous." Nia stared at him. "I'm dangerous for wanting my baby back." He shrugged, helpless. "I'm not saying it's right." She leaned forward, her voice quiet but sharp. "Do you even know her name?" He blinked. "Justice." "That's right," she said. "Justice. That's her name. That's what I named her. And now it's a joke." They let her out just before sunset. She walked back to the shelter alone. No bus fare, no car. Just her legs and the broken pieces of a life that used to mean something. The sky had turned a sickly purple-orange. Streetlights buzzed to life, casting long, flickering shadows across empty sidewalks. A pair of teenage boys whizzed by on bikes, laughing. Somewhere, a dog barked behind a chain-link fence. Nia felt invisible. At the shelter, the bed where Justice used to sleep was still made. Someone had moved the stuffed elephant to the foot of the mattress, like it was just waiting for its owner to come back. Nia lay down fully dressed and pulled the covers up to her chin. She stared at the ceiling, waiting for tears that never came. She was past tears. The next morning, the caseworker showed up. Not Miss Brannigan. A new one. Tall, pale, severe. Her name was printed on a cheap plastic badge clipped to her gray blazer. Darla M. Trenton, Child Services. Nia met her in the shelter's small office space, where someone had left a half-eaten sandwich on the desk, and the air smelled like sour coffee. "We're conducting a reassessment of the situation," Trenton said, opening a thick file without looking up. "Your behavior in court raised concerns." Nia's fists clenched in her lap. "I lost my daughter in front of the whole damn world. Excuse me for not reacting politely." Trenton ignored the sarcasm. "You'll be referred to a psychological evaluator. Also, we're requiring supervised visitation only, starting next week. 30 minutes, once a week." "Once a week?" Nia gasped. "She's 4. She needs me. You can't replace her mother with a half-hour visit and a coloring book." Trenton finally looked up. Her eyes were pale and distant, like fogged glass. "We're doing what's best for the child." "No," Nia said, her voice hardening. "You're doing what's easy for you." Over the next week, Nia moved through life like a ghost. She applied for jobs. None called back. She begged legal aid again. They told her the same thing. No lawyers available, not now. She sat in parenting classes with other tired women and men who all looked just as beaten. The instructor, cheerful and detached, talked about positive reinforcement and creating safe routines. Nia wanted to scream. There were no routines without a child. No parenting without someone to love. The day of the first visit arrived like a cruel joke. It was held in a government office on the edge of town, with windows too high for sunlight and a waiting room full of broken families. They led Nia to a playroom with a plastic table, a few dusty toys, and a laminated poster on the wall that read, "Family is forever." She sat on the tiny chair and waited. When the door opened and Justice walked in holding Mr. Tumbles, Nia's heart stopped. The little girl looked tired. Her hair had been combed, but not the way Nia did it. There were dark circles under her eyes. "Mama!" she cried, running forward. Nia dropped to her knees and held her baby, so tight it hurt. Justice smelled like unfamiliar shampoo and institutional soap. "I missed you," Justice whispered. "I missed you more," Nia said, blinking back the tears. "So much more." A woman with a clipboard stood in the corner, arms folded. A camera was mounted in the ceiling. They only had 30 minutes. The room they used for visitation smelled like cleaning supplies and plastic. The walls were painted in cheerful colors, but everything felt cold. Manufactured cheerfulness pasted over institutional grief. Nia held Justice close, brushing her fingers through her little girl's curls. 30 minutes wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But Nia had learned not to cry in front of her daughter. She smiled instead, even though her heart was ripping in half. "You still sleep with Mr. Tumbles?" she whispered. Justice nodded, her eyes big. "He keeps me safe." "Good. You tell him I said to protect you extra hard, okay?" Justice glanced around at the room, then leaned in close. "Are you going to come get me soon, Mama?" The question hit Nia like a bullet. "I'm trying, baby," she said softly. "I promise you. I'm trying every day." Justice didn't look convinced. "But I cried for you last night, and you didn't come." Nia swallowed the lump in her throat. "I know, but I will. I swear I will. Just hold on a little longer for me." The caseworker in the corner coughed lightly and tapped the clipboard. 5 minutes left. When the visit ended, Nia walked out of the building with her arms feeling empty, her chest hollow. The air was damp with spring rain, the kind that soaked you before you even realized it had started. She stood outside for a few minutes, staring at nothing, letting the rain hide her tears. Back at the shelter, she barely spoke. She sat on her cot and stared at the wall, trying to figure out how to win a game where the rules kept changing. She'd done everything they asked, gotten evaluated, gone to therapy sessions, taken parenting classes, showed up on time for every visit. But still, CPS was dragging their feet. The new social worker, Trenton, rarely returned her calls. Every document took weeks. Every answer was vague. "You're doing great," the shelter's counselor, Mrs. Reese, said once. "Just keep it up." But it felt like telling a drowning person to swim better. Nia decided to go to the CPS office in person. She walked there, clutching a manila folder with every paper she could collect, attendance logs, therapy summaries, character references from the shelter staff. Proof. Evidence. A roadmap back to her daughter. At the front desk, the receptionist looked at her over round glasses. "Do you have an appointment with Miss Trenton?" "She never returns my calls," Nia said. "I just need 5 minutes." The woman sighed and picked up the phone. A minute later, she shook her head. "She's not available." "I can wait," Nia said firmly, and sat in a corner chair. She waited 2 hours. When Trenton finally appeared, her heels clicking on the tile, she looked surprised and annoyed to see Nia still there. "I said I wasn't available." "I don't care," Nia said. She stood up, her voice steady. "I've been playing by your rules. I took every class. I've never missed a visit. I've got letters from shelter staff, from the therapist. What more do you need?" Trenton blinked slowly. "We're reviewing the situation." "For how long?" Nia demanded. "Because every week you review, my baby forgets what I smell like." People were staring now. Trenton stiffened. "If you continue to raise your voice." "I'm not raising it," Nia snapped. "This is the only volume you hear." The receptionist stood. "Ma'am, you'll need to leave if." "I'm going," Nia said, voice breaking. But this isn't over. That night, Nia dreamed of her daughter. They were at the park, the one Justice used to love, with the squeaky swings and old slide. It was a warm day. The air smelled like cut grass and sunshine. "Mama, push me higher." Justice laughed. Nia smiled and gave the swing a gentle push. Her daughter rose into the sky, her laughter ringing. But when the swing came back, Justice was gone. Nia woke up choking on a sob. 2 weeks later, during visitation, Justice seemed different. Quieter. Her smile was slower, her voice more cautious. She didn't run to Nia this time. She walked. "They said maybe I go to new home," she said, eyes on the floor. Nia froze. "What?" "Miss Trenton told me. If you don't get better soon." Anger rose like a fire inside Nia's chest. "You have a home. With me. I'm getting better every day for you." Justice hugged Mr. Tumbles tighter. but I don't like my room there. It smells like bleach. Nia's hands shook. After the visit, she stormed back to the shelter and called every number she could find. Legal aid, the public defender, the county advocacy center. Nobody picked up. Nobody ever picked up. She posted on community forums, messaged advocacy groups online. A few strangers offered empty words, "Stay strong, sis," and sending prayers. But no real help came. Then one night, scrolling on her old cracked phone, she found a local parent group on Facebook for mothers dealing with CPS. She clicked join. A woman named Kia M. messaged her the next morning. "They tried to take my twins. I fought for 8 months. Hit me up if you need advice. I got you." It was the first time in weeks someone said "I got you." Nia replied instantly. Kia called that same night. Her voice was rough but kind, the kind of voice that had learned to stay calm during storms. "They count on you giving up," she said. "That's what they're hoping for. But if you keep records, every visit, every call, every time they ghost you, they can't hide behind their lies forever." Nia sat on her cot, knees pulled to her chest, listening like her life depended on it. "First thing you need," Kia continued, "is to file a formal complaint. You're allowed to. Trenton works for the county, not God. They'll just retaliate," Nia muttered. "They already are," Kia snapped. "They told your baby about foster placement. That's not protocol. That's psychological warfare." Nia was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, "Okay, what do I do?" The next morning, Nia typed a letter on the shelter's shared computer. It wasn't fancy, no legal lingo. Just the truth, in simple words. She listed everything. The unanswered calls, the broken promises, the inappropriate comment Justice repeated. She attached copies of therapy notes, certificates from parenting classes, even her daily schedule, showing she was actively job hunting. She sent the email to the Office of Family Oversight. CC'd everyone Kia told her to. Then she waited. Trenton called the next day. Her voice was tight. "I saw your email." Nia stayed calm. "I'm sure you did. You could have spoken to me first." "I did. For weeks." There was a pause. "Well," Trenton said stiffly, "expect a formal meeting. And a home visit." Nia blinked. "Home visit? I'm at a shelter. Then we'll assess the environment there. Be ready." She hung up before Nia could ask anything else. Mrs. Reese helped her prepare. They cleaned the room together, straightened blankets, made sure Nia's documents were in a neat folder. She even helped borrow some plastic flowers from the common room to brighten the space. "You're doing great," Reese said gently. "Don't let them scare you." "They already did," Nia said. "But you didn't run. That counts for something." The home visit was a joke. Trenton showed up with another worker, someone younger who scribbled notes without looking up. They asked Nia cold questions. How many people share the bathroom? Is there security at night? How often is she alone? Do you have any income? Trenton asked. "I'm waiting on my second job to approve hours." "What about housing prospects?" "I'm on the list." The young worker scribbled faster. It lasted less than 20 minutes. Trenton didn't even sit down. Nia cried after they left, not because she was weak, but because she was tired. Because every time she took a step forward, someone moved the finish line. She went outside, sat on the curb near the parking lot, and stared at the sky. The clouds moved like smoke, slow and indifferent. The following week, Nia was summoned to court. She hadn't expected another hearing so soon. There had been no notice, no lawyer, just a phone call from a number she didn't recognize. Be at the county courthouse, 9 a.m. Courtroom, 3B. She wore her nicest shirt, borrowed slacks from the shelter donation box, and tied her hair up the way Justice liked. But when she entered the courtroom, the air changed. It was cold, too bright. The judge barely glanced at her. Trenton was already there, sitting next to a county lawyer. They whispered, shuffled papers. Nia had no idea what they were saying. "Where's my attorney?" she asked. A bailiff looked confused. "Didn't you bring one?" "I was never given one." Trenton didn't even flinch. The judge started speaking in legal terms Nia didn't understand. Words like termination proceedings, reunification delay, and emergency reconsideration of placement. She stood up, panicked. "Your Honor, wait, I wasn't told about this. I need representation." The judge glanced over his glasses. "This is just an administrative review. But they're talking about my daughter. You'll have a chance to respond in the next stage." "When?" "After she's placed somewhere else." The bailiff stepped forward. "Please sit down, ma'am." Nia refused. I have evidence. I filed a complaint. I have progress reports. The judge sighed. This is not the time or place for an outburst. It's not an outburst. It's my life. The courtroom fell into silence. And then it happened. So fast she barely understood. The judge gave the signal. 2 officers approached her. Before she could blink, one had grabbed her wrist. "Don't touch me," she shouted, but they were already locking the cuffs. "I'm her mother." They dragged her back from the bench. Through the large courtroom windows, Nia caught a glimpse of Justice in the hallway. Small, confused, clutching her stuffed toy, reaching toward the glass as a social worker led her away. Nia screamed her daughter's name. People in the courtroom gasped. Someone filmed it. But the judge didn't flinch. And Justice disappeared down the hall. The video was online within hours. A blurry clip, shaky hands. Someone in the back row had caught it all. The screaming, the cuffs, the sobbing child beyond the glass. It spread fast. A caption in all caps. They took her child for being poor. By morning, it had hit 100,000 views. People were angry. Comment sections filled with outrage, theories, debates. WTF did I just watch? This judge needs to be fired. They really arrested a mother trying to get her kid back? This country criminalizes poverty. Same story, different day. But Nia didn't know. She was in holding, cold and alone. No phone, no window, just a buzzing light and a metal toilet in the corner. She was released 18 hours later. No apology, no explanation, just a dead-eyed officer unlocking the cell. "Court says you're out." That's it. Take it up with the county. Her legs were stiff. Her body ached from the cot. But worst of all was the silence in her chest, where her daughter's voice used to echo. When she got back to the shelter, Mrs. Reese rushed to her. "Nia, baby, are you okay? It's everywhere." "What is?" Reese pulled out her phone, already shaking. "Look, the video. 1 million views now." Nia stared, blank. It felt like watching someone else, a stranger with her face, her scream, her shame. That night, a reporter called. Then another. And another. She didn't answer any of them. She didn't want interviews. Didn't want to be a headline or a symbol. She just wanted her baby. Justice had been placed in an emergency foster arrangement. Trenton said over the phone, "You'll receive details through formal correspondence. You dragged me out in cuffs. You created a disruption in a courtroom. You lied. You never told me about the hearing. Ms. Freeman." Trenton's voice turned cold. "The more you resist the process, the harder you make reunification. Stop saying that word like it means something." There was silence. Then a click. She'd hung up. For 2 days, Nia didn't sleep. She paced, cried, tried to eat, failed. Then Kia called again. "You're not just a headline now," Kia said. "You're a fire. And they're scared of fire. I didn't ask to be viral. No one does. But you are. Use it." "How?" "You go public, but on your own terms. Tell your story. The real one. No edits. No agenda. Just truth." Nia didn't think she could. She was shy. She hated cameras. But then she found a note in her pocket, one she forgot she even had. Justice had scribbled it on yellow construction paper weeks ago during a visit. It said, in crooked letters, "I love you, Mommy. Don't stop." And suddenly, she knew what to do. She asked Kia for help. Together, they recorded a video in the shelter common room. Just Nia, sitting in front of a neutral wall, speaking quietly. No makeup, no script, just her voice. "My name is Nia Freeman. I'm 27. I'm a single mom. I'm not perfect, but I love my daughter more than anything." She told the whole story, from the missed calls, to the arrest, to the moment she saw Justice disappear behind the glass. "I'm not asking for donations," she said near the end. "I just want her back. And I want people to understand how easily this could be you." The video was 6 minutes long. By morning, it had 2 million views. A local journalist reached out. A woman named Erica with kind eyes and a reputation for calling out injustice. "I don't want to twist your story," Erica promised. "I just want to document it right." Nia agreed to meet. She showed Erica the documents, emails, therapy notes, visitation logs. She even showed her the crayon drawings Justice had made during visits. Erica nodded, listening carefully. "This system doesn't bend," she said, "until it breaks in front of everyone." 3 days later, Erica's article dropped. Headline: "The state took her child. Now they're hiding from the truth." It went everywhere. Even bigger news outlets started picking it up. Talk shows reached out. Lawyers called. offering help for free. Someone even created a GoFundMe without her asking. It raised $80,000 in a week. But none of that mattered to Nia, because justice was still gone. She finally got a court-appointed attorney, a young man named Malik Thomas. He came to the shelter in a wrinkled shirt and nervous energy. "I've read the file," he said. "It's a mess. And I'm sorry. Can you get her back? We're gonna try. I need more than try." He looked her in the eyes. "Then we'll fight." Malik filed an emergency petition for review. He argued the system had violated Nia's due process, that the removal was retaliatory, that there had been no immediate danger to the child, and the arrest was not only unethical, it was illegal. The court scheduled a new hearing. This time, Nia would be ready. The courtroom smelled the same: cold wood, stale air, and fear. But this time, Nia wasn't alone. Malik walked beside her, tall and focused, carrying a worn leather briefcase. His tie was crooked, but his arguments were sharp. Kia sat in the back row, arms folded, nodding silently. Erica, the journalist, was there too, though she promised not to record anything. A few strangers, people who had seen the video, sat quietly, offering their silent support. But none of it comforted Nia as much as the idea that maybe, just maybe, this time someone would listen. Trenton entered with 2 county attorneys. She didn't look at Nia. She never did. The judge, a different one this time, an older black woman with silver hair and calm eyes, called the session to order. Malik stood. "Your Honor, we are here to challenge the legality of a removal done without proper notice, legal counsel, or evidence of imminent danger." One of the county lawyers interrupted. "Your Honor, the child was placed into temporary protective custody following escalating behavioral concerns." "That's false," Malik cut in. "There is no documentation of behavioral concerns prior to this, and the mother was actively complying with all reunification plans." The judge raised a hand. "Let's take this one step at a time." She looked at Nia. "Miss Freeman, you were not notified of the last hearing?" "No, ma'am." "And were you assigned counsel at that time?" "No." "Were you ever informed that your daughter might be placed with strangers permanently?" Nia's voice cracked. "I found out when they were dragging me out in handcuffs." The judge exhaled slowly, eyes narrowing at the county table. Trenton's tone shifted. She no longer sounded confident, just tired, irritated. "Your Honor, Miss Freeman has become a public spectacle. Her viral video has compromised our ability to manage this case effectively." "Or maybe," Malik said evenly, "your actions compromised your own credibility." Nia watched the judge's face carefully. She wasn't smiling. She didn't show emotion. But she was listening. They broke for recess. Malik leaned close. "She's not convinced yet, but she's thinking. That's more than most. What happens if she says no? Then we appeal. Federal court, if we have to. And justice. She stays in the system." Nia stared at the floor. "I don't know where she sleeps. I don't know what she eats. She still wets the bed sometimes." "I know," Malik said quietly. "But you're fighting. That matters." The second half of the hearing was harder. Trenton brought up Nia's history. Her past due rent before eviction, the period she was unemployed, her own childhood in the foster system. "She has no stable housing," Trenton said. "No employment. Her child needs consistency." "She had housing," Malik shot back. "She lost it when your office delayed the shelter placement. She has a job lined up, pending paperwork you've refused to process. And consistency? You dragged a child from her mother and gave her to strangers. That's not consistency. That's trauma." The judge scribbled something down. By the end of the day, Nia was exhausted. The judge didn't give a ruling. She simply said, "I will issue a written decision within 5 business days." Then she banged the gavel. Court adjourned. Outside the courthouse, cameras waited. Reporters shouted her name. Nia ignored them. She walked to the corner of the parking lot and sat on the curb, just like she used to outside the shelter. Kia joined her. "No matter what happens, that judge saw something today. Hope. No. A mother." That night, Nia didn't sleep. Every hour dragged. She refreshed her email. Called Malik. Paced. Cried. Waited. And then, on the 3rd day, just after noon, the email came. Subject: Judicial Review Decision, Freeman Case. Body: the court finds that the removal of Justice Freeman was not conducted in accordance with proper legal procedures, and that the mother's due process rights were violated at multiple stages. The court orders immediate reunification under supervised transition. All previous orders regarding termination of parental rights are hereby rescinded. Effective immediately. Nia screamed. Loud, joyful, unfiltered. Then she collapsed onto the floor in sobs. Reese ran in. What happened? She's coming home. Nia choked out. She's coming home. The supervised transition meant Justice couldn't just return overnight. There would be monitored visits, mental health evaluations, home inspections. But Nia didn't care. Every hour was worth it. Their first visit took place at a child advocacy center. The room was filled with toys and pastel walls, but Nia only saw her. Justice. Small. A little thinner. Still clutching the same stuffed animal. She looked up when Nia entered. Hesitated. Then ran. Nia fell to her knees and caught her. They held each other like they were never going to let go again. I missed you, Mommy. I missed you more. The social worker wiped a tear. Even she couldn't pretend it was just routine. The Child Advocacy Center became their temporary sanctuary. Each visit was timed, monitored, observed through a mirrored glass panel where a caseworker took notes on a clipboard, tracking every interaction like it was part of an experiment. But Nia didn't care. Justice was in her arms again. At first, her daughter was quiet, almost too quiet for a 4-year-old. She didn't ask questions, didn't cry, didn't laugh. She clung to her plush bunny and looked at Nia with a mix of longing and suspicion, like she was trying to remember if this was a dream. Nia had to rebuild her trust from scratch. Hey, baby, she whispered on their second visit. Do you want me to braid your hair today like I used to? Justice blinked, then nodded, just once. It was the first sign of home. Kia came with Nia to every visit. She brought juice boxes and snacks, helped braid, helped fill awkward silences. Malik stopped by once too, standing awkwardly in the corner, notebook in hand. Afterwards, he pulled Nia aside. You're doing amazing, he said. But be prepared. The system doesn't like to admit it was wrong. They might still drag this out. How long until she can come home? Best case? 3 more weeks. Worst? Months. I don't have months, Nia whispered. She doesn't either. The home inspections were next. Nia scrubbed every inch of the tiny apartment Reese helped her get. The fridge wasn't full, but it was clean. The sheets were fresh. She even set up a little corner for Justice, with crayons and a plastic tea set. The caseworker arrived 15 minutes early. Trenton wasn't with her this time. Nice place, the woman said, walking around slowly. Quiet building. Stable utilities. Paid through next month. Employment. Part-time at a diner, night shifts. I'm looking for something better. The caseworker nodded and jotted something down. She picked up a framed photo on the counter, Nia and Justice at the beach, back when things were good. She still calls for you in her sleep. The woman said softly, setting the photo down. Nia swallowed hard. That weekend, they got their first unsupervised visit. For hours, just Nia and her daughter. She picked Justice up from the center, buckling her carefully into the back seat of Reese's car. She was wearing the same faded blue coat she'd had on for weeks. Want to see your room? Nia asked. Justice nodded. Back at the apartment, Nia let her lead the way. Justice wandered through slowly, taking it all in, the fairy lights, the doll on the bed, the tiny bookshelf. This mine, all yours. Where's your room? Nia laughed. Right next door. Justice looked up at her. Are you going to stay this time? Nia knelt beside her. Forever, baby. I promise. They colored. Baked box brownies. Ate grilled cheese. Justice didn't talk much, but she started humming again, a silly tune from a cartoon they used to watch together. Nia had to step into the bathroom at one point and cry silently into a towel. Not because she was sad, because this tiny moment felt like life returning. The next visit was a full day, then a weekend, then a court hearing. This time, the courtroom felt different. Judge Wallace wore a slight smile as Nia and Malik entered. Well, she said, glancing over her glasses. Looks like we've made progress. Malik stood. Your Honor, we're here today to request full reunification. My client has maintained stable housing, employment, and passed all compliance reviews. The child, Justice Freeman, has expressed consistent desire to return home. The judge looked at the county attorney, a new face. The woman barely lifted her head. No objections from CPS. Nia's heart skipped. Very well, the judge said. Miss Freeman, your daughter will be released into your full custody this afternoon. Nia didn't move. She wasn't sure she heard it right. Go be her mother, the judge added, gently. At the advocacy center, Justice was already waiting with a backpack and her bunny. She didn't smile when she saw Nia. She squealed. "Mommy!" They ran to each other again. No mirrored glass. No time limit. No clipboard. Just mother and daughter, finally walking out together. The first night back wasn't perfect. Justice had a nightmare and woke up screaming. She didn't want water. Didn't want food. She just curled into a ball and shook. Nia sat with her on the floor until the trembling stopped. She held her close and whispered, "You're safe now. Nobody's going to take you again." Justice didn't speak. But in the morning, she crawled into Nia's bed, pressed close, and whispered, "I love you, Mommy." 3 weeks passed. Kia brought over a cake on Justice's 5th birthday. Erica sent flowers with a note. "You made noise." And it mattered. Reese called just to say, "You won." Nia didn't feel like she'd won, though. Not yet. Because Justice still checked the front door twice before bedtime. Still jumped at loud knocks. Still carried her bunny everywhere like it might get taken too. Healing wasn't instant. But it was happening. One afternoon, while Justice was napping, Nia sat at the kitchen table with a blank notebook. She picked up a pen, wrote one line. "They took everything, but I took it back." The days grew longer. Summer was near, and the light stayed late. Justice loved the balcony best. It was barely wide enough for a chair, but she'd sit there for hours with her bunny and a plastic cup of apple juice, humming softly as cars passed below. Sometimes Nia joined her. They didn't need to speak. Just being together felt like enough. But not everything was healed. Not yet. The trauma lingered like a fog, quiet but present. Justice still refused to sleep with the door closed. She flinched at loud footsteps in the hallway. When a stranger knocked, she hid behind the couch. And once, during a walk, a white woman in a tan suit smiled and asked what her name was. Justice froze. Her grip on Nia's hand tightened until her knuckles turned white. Later, when Nia asked what scared her, Justice whispered, "I thought she was coming to take me again." Nia held her daughter tighter than ever. Nia herself had scars too. Invisible, but deep. The nightmares still came, though less often. Dreams where Trenton stood in her apartment doorway. Where courtrooms had no judges, just shadows. Where she screamed and no one heard. The system hadn't just taken her daughter. It had made her feel like less than a person. One morning, Justice said, "Mommy, can you draw me?" Nia raised an eyebrow. "You want me to draw you?" "MHM. Like happy. With bunny. And hair like this." She smiled and shook her little curls. Nia grabbed a pen and sketched on the back of an envelope. It was rough, a few quick lines. But when she finished, Justice gasped. "That's me. I want to hang it on the fridge." And so they did. Drawing returned to Nia slowly, like an old friend knocking at the door. She used to love it, before the shelters, before the hearings, before survival swallowed everything else. But now, in the quiet of their small apartment, with Justice asleep and the hum of a fan in the background, Nia drew again. Faces mostly. Mothers. Daughters. Strangers she'd seen in waiting rooms. One night, she drew herself. Tears and all. She titled it, "Still Here." At the diner, her boss offered her extra shifts. "You're reliable," he said. "And you show up." That was the highest compliment the man ever gave. Nia took the shifts. Every dollar counted. Justice needed new shoes. Rent was always lurking. And she still had a mountain of medical debt for a hospital visit she hadn't even agreed to. But for the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was drowning. Just swimming. One Sunday morning, Kia dropped by with a box of cupcakes and big news. "Guess what?" she said, plopping down on the couch. "City Council's holding a public hearing on CPS oversight. They're taking statements." Nia stiffened. Kia noticed. "You don't have to say anything. I'm just saying, people are listening now. Some of them, anyway." "I'm not ready," Nia said. "I can barely say Trenton's name out loud." Kia nodded. "Then don't rush. Just don't disappear either. Your story's not just yours anymore." 1 week later, a letter arrived. It was from CPS. Official notice of case closure. Words that looked sterile on paper, but meant everything. Justice was free. No more surprise visits. No more supervised anything. Just mother and daughter. Legal, final, complete. They went out for ice cream to celebrate. Justice picked chocolate with rainbow sprinkles. Nia picked vanilla and didn't even care when it melted too fast. "I'm free," Nia whispered, more to herself than anyone. Justice looked up. "We both are." Later that night, Justice came to her mother's bed with her bunny under one arm. "Can I sleep with you just tonight?" Of course, baby. She crawled in, curled up close. And in the dark, she asked, "Are you sure they won't take me again?" Nia didn't answer right away. She wrapped her arms around her. "No one's ever taking you from me again. I'll fight the whole world if I have to." Justice nodded, slowly drifting off. "Okay, Mommy. I believe you now." It happened on a Wednesday. The kind of quiet, ordinary Wednesday where the air feels still and nothing seems urgent. Nia had just returned from work. Her shoes kicked off at the door, and Justice was humming softly on the floor, coloring a picture of a house with flowers and a rainbow. Nia smiled. For the first time in a long while, her heart felt light. She was even considering going back to school, maybe taking a community class in art or early childhood education. Nothing major, just a step toward the future. And then came the knock. Firm. 3 times. Her chest tightened instantly. A reflex now. Her mind raced. Police? CPS? Some paperwork mistake? Justice froze, crayon mid-stroke. "Mommy." Nia stepped toward the door and looked through the peephole. It wasn't a uniform. It was a man in a suit, clean cut, holding a leather folder. "Ms. Lattimore?" he called through the door. "Yes," she answered cautiously. "I'm from State Child and Family Services Oversight. We're reviewing past case closures. I just have a few follow-up questions." Nia didn't open the door. "Is this about my daughter?" she asked sharply. "No new action," the man said, raising a hand as if she could see it. "Just protocol. May I come in?" She didn't move. "Send it by mail." There was a pause. "Ma'am, we can make note of non-cooperation if necessary." That got her blood boiling. "I cooperated for a year while you people watched my daughter cry herself to sleep in shelters," she snapped. "You can make a note of that." The man's voice stayed calm. "Very well. I'll record that." And then he left. Nia shut the door with trembling hands. Justice watched her silently, clutching her bunny. "Are they going to take me again?" she asked in a whisper. "No," Nia said firmly, bending down to hold her face. "No one's taking you. Not now. Not ever." But that night, she didn't sleep. She laid awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if one letter or one technicality could undo everything. The next day, she went to Kia's house. Kia listened, arms folded. "They love trying to reopen wounds just to check for bleeding," she said bitterly. "You did the right thing. Don't let him back in." "I didn't even open the door," Nia muttered. But it still felt like he walked in. Kia leaned forward. "You want my advice? Document everything. Names, times, what he said. Don't let them gaslight you." Nia nodded. She went home and wrote it all down, date and time included. She taped the note inside her kitchen cabinet. Later that week, Nia got a call from the diner. "I've got bad news," her boss said. "New policy. Full-time workers need open availability. That includes weekends." "I can't do weekends," she said. "My sitter's only available weekdays." "Well," he said awkwardly, "I can't hold the spot forever." Nia hung up in silence. She stared at the wall, then went to check on Justice. The little girl was napping, curled up with her bunny, mouth slightly open. Nia sat beside her and whispered, "I'll figure it out. I always do." She picked up a few shifts cleaning houses. Less money, more hours. She skipped meals to stretch groceries. She pawned a bracelet she got from her grandma. It wasn't fair, but Nia had stopped expecting fair. She wanted stable. One afternoon, Justice came home from school with something in her backpack. A drawing. It was her and her mom. Stick figures. But the smiles were unmistakable. Across the top, in big shaky letters, she'd written, "Me and Mommy forever." Nia cried in the bathroom for 20 minutes. Not from sadness. From relief. From gratitude that her daughter still saw the good parts. Then, one night, it happened. The door rattled. Nia sat up in bed. Her phone said 2:13 a.m. Someone was outside. She grabbed the baseball bat from behind the door, one she'd bought months ago after too many nights spent listening to creaks and footsteps. She crept to the peephole. No one. Then, as she was turning to walk away, she heard it again, not the door. The window. She yanked open the curtain and saw a dark figure running. Just a blur, gone in seconds. She called Kia. Kia arrived in 10 minutes, bat in hand too. "Nothing's broken," Nia whispered, pacing. "No forced entry. Just rattling." "You think it's CPS?" Kia asked. "I don't know, but it doesn't feel random." They called the police. A patrol car came, took a report. But there were no cameras in the hallway, no witnesses, no evidence. "Probably just some drunk," the officer said casually. Kia stayed the night anyway, just in case. 2 days passed. No knocks, no calls, no movement. But the fear stayed, like mold behind the walls, invisible until it poisons everything. Nia stopped sleeping again. She jumped at every creak. She kept the bat next to her bed and moved a chair under the doorknob each night, just in case. Justice started asking questions. Why are the lights on all night? Why do you keep looking out the window? Are the bad people coming back? Nia never answered directly. She just said, "Not if I can help it, baby." Kia brought over pepper spray. A friend dropped off an old baby monitor that Nia used as a makeshift security cam by the door. She taped a handwritten note over the peephole. Protected. Watched. Not afraid. But she was afraid. Not for herself. For her daughter. What if they showed up with another lie, another warrant, another mistake? What if they waited until she was gone and Justice was home with a sitter? What if? The questions clawed at her. Then, on a gray Friday morning, Nia got a letter. This one was different. Official apology from the State Department of Child and Family Services. It was short, cold, template-like. We regret the hardship experienced during your case. While our department works to ensure child safety, we acknowledge that procedural failures may have occurred. Your case is now closed with no further action. No names. No signatures. Just a typed paragraph and a state seal. Nia read it 3 times. Then she folded it in half and slid it into the trash. Justice was more than a case. She was her heart. And no apology, no matter how official, could rewind the damage. But something shifted that day. Maybe it was the finality. Maybe it was the fact that, after everything, they finally admitted they were wrong, even if just barely. Nia called Kia. "I want to speak." "Speak." "At the hearing. The one you mentioned." "For oversight." There was a long silence. Then Kia said, "Hell yes." 1 week later, Nia stood in front of a room filled with strangers. City officials, reporters, other mothers. She held a printed photo of Justice in one hand, the one she'd taped to the fridge months ago, and a folded statement in the other. Her palms were sweating. Her knees shook. But when she opened her mouth, her voice was steady. "I'm not here to beg. I'm not here to relive trauma just for headlines. I'm here because no mother should be dragged away in chains while her child screams for her on the other side of bulletproof glass." Silence. She continued. "No child should learn the word foster before the word home. No judge should rubber stamp separation because a mother missed one court date or didn't have a working phone." She paused. "My name is Nia Lattimore. My daughter's name is Justice. She is not a case number. She is not a statistic. She is not a warning sign on some clipboard." She looked up. "She is mine." The room didn't explode in applause, but several people nodded. One woman cried silently, and Nia walked out lighter than she had felt in years. That night, she and Justice lit a candle in the window. Justice asked why. "To let the darkness know we're not afraid," Nia said. Justice nodded like she understood. Then she ran off to play with her bunny. Summer came, then fall. Justice started kindergarten. Nia bought her a backpack with stars on it and packed her lunch every morning with a note inside. "You are loved. You are strong. You are safe." Sometimes, Justice showed the notes to her teacher. "Mommy writes me spells," she told the other kids proudly. And in a way, she did. Words that protected. Words that reminded. One night, Justice was falling asleep when she whispered, "Mommy." "Yes, baby." "What if they come again?" Nia didn't lie. She took a deep breath and said, "If they come again, I'll fight like fire. I'll scream until the walls crack. I'll stand in front of you like a mountain. I'll tear down the sky if I have to." Justice smiled. "Okay." And she drifted off, just like that. Nia sat in the dark a while longer, staring at the little girl who had once been taken from her, who was now safe, asleep, whole. She wasn't naive. The world was still unfair, still cruel. The system hadn't changed overnight. But she had. She was stronger now, louder. And if they did come again, she'd be ready. But more than that, she'd make sure they never had a reason. Because this wasn't just survival anymore. This was living.